Hi everyone, welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. In this video I'm going to put a whole bunch of puzzle pieces together for you that ultimately will result in what I believe is a message to humanity from our ancient past. One that it's critical that we come to grips with, understand, and take action upon if we're going to survive as a species. This should change your entire perspective on reality, on yourselves, your fellow humans, and how we integrate ourselves with reality and how we behave not only individually but collectively as a species as well. I hope you'll sit through this and pay attention and attempt to come to an understanding of what I'm trying to present, because I think it's one of the most important things that we have ever had to come to grips with as a species. Okay, now the first piece to this puzzle is going to be an understanding of sacred geometry. You hear geometry, you may be a little worried. It's going to be very easy, very simple. If you can look at a shape, read a number, it's going to be not much more difficult than that. Sacred geometry has been around for thousands of years, has been encoded in all our sacred architecture, temples, churches, etc. All of our great thinkers have expounded upon sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is important because it's seen as the basis for all reality. It's these basic shapes that with these shapes everything is created, essentially, not including fractal geometry, which is a little bit more complicated, and I won't go into that. Just sacred geometry for now. So in keeping with that, I'm going to use a cartoon called Spirit Science. It's online. I'll provide a link to it below, as I will with all the information that I use in this video. This will give an introduction to sacred geometry, in particular the central figure of sacred geometry, which is known as the flower of life. After the flower of life, we'll go into what are known as the 5 Platonic solids, take a quick look at them, know what they are, and their angular angles, to what the angles essentially add up to and why that's important. So first, here's the flower of life, introduction to the flower of life in the form of a cartoon.
But we have to talk about some other things first. Everything in the universe is geometric, whether it's people, trees, cats, planets, solar systems, stars, you name it. Anything in the universe can be measured on a geometric scale. Having said that, it's important to note that creation is also geometric. What we're going to be looking at today is the pattern of creation. Essentially what this means is that everything in the universe comes out of this single pattern. I'm not making this up. This single image will change everything. When I mentioned in Lesson 5 that the ancient Egyptians and even more ancient civilizations knew about a deeper, basic understanding of the universe, this is the flower of life, and it is also the creation pattern of everything in existence. Even non-tangible things, emotions, thoughts, music in its entire spectrum, everything comes from this image. Okay, so
next we'll take a look at that same cartoon that's going to look at how the flower of life is created. This is important because this will then expound upon other information and videos that we later see. So we'll take a look at how the flower of life is created and its relationship with the creation of the universe.
Information. If you really want to learn more, you must begin to draw it yourself. I kid you not, when you do this, you begin to see things in a new way. You begin to understand why things are done in the way that they are done. Promise. The flower of life was known around the world in ancient times. It was found in Ireland, Turkey, Israel, Egypt, China, Greece, Germany, India, and Iceland. It's also been recorded to have been found in England, Tibet, Japan, Sweden, Lapland, the Yucatan, and I think 14 other places. This thing is everywhere. Not only that, but everywhere around the world it has the same name, the flower of life. Now, to understand the flower of life, first we have to talk about how it's formed. This could get incredibly complex, so I'll try and keep it simple. Imagine consciousness, or spirit, floating in a void, which means it's nothingness, and then spirit. No physical body or mind, just spirit, and that's it. Then blackness, essentially nothing, all around the spirit, for infinite. Spirit decides to do something, so it expands its consciousness all around itself as far as it can go without moving. It creates a sphere around itself. This is the first circle in the flower of life. Then, spirit has an awareness of what's around itself in 360 degrees. It moves to the very edge of the sphere anywhere and repeats what it did the first time. It creates this image, which also creates the Vesica Pisces. Within the Vesica Pisces is a vast and incredible amount of knowledge about width, proportion, depth. Also comes the square roots of 2, 3, and 5, which are all numbers that go on forever. But even more interestingly, comes geometric information about light. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, spirit has no choice but to do it again. Spirit is flawless, and therefore it will move flawlessly, creating the next circle either here or here, exactly one radius away from the other circle next to it. Every time spirit moves another sphere, more and more knowledge comes out of the image that is created. The first complete image to be formed is this. It has two names, the Seed of Life, or the Genesis pattern, and for good reason. Now, let's look at the book of Genesis for a second. Each of these movements or creations of circles can be seen as another day. On the first movement, the second sphere.
Okay, now if you're paying attention, you may note that the creation of the flower of life, one cell divides into 2, then 3, then 4, etc., etc. It mimics cellular division. You were once one cell in your mommy's stomach. You divided into 2, then 4, then etc., etc. This mimics cellular division. This isn't coincidental. There's a reason why, and there's a reason why they talk about this being the geometry of life and all of creation. So next we'll take a look at the next shape that is created. It's called the egg of life. We'll go back to that cartoon and take a look.
The second image beyond Genesis in the flower of life is the egg of life. This is formed during the second vortex motion. Upon completion, it creates an image like this, a three-dimensional shape that you can hold in your hand. If you were to connect their centers, you would see a cube. So what? Who cares? Well, the ancient Egyptians did, because they were concerned with creation, life, and death. They called this cluster of spheres the egg of life. You probably won't believe me just yet, but this shape...
So as we've seen, from the egg of life, we can then extract the cube, which is basically part of sacred geometry, one of the sacred geometric shapes. Let's see what happens when we further divide it and get more shapes out of the egg of life and what we can derive from them. Here's that cartoon again.
This image is the fruit of life. This pattern of 13 circles is one of the holiest, most sacred forms in existence. It's called the fruit because it is the result, the fruit, from which the fabric of the details of the reality were created. Remember when we talked about male and female energy, lesson 4? As you can see, this image is female. It has no straight lines. However, when you combine male lines with these female circles, something amazing happens. What you do is draw a straight line from the very center of every single circle to every other circle in this image. When you do this, you get an image which is known throughout the universe, everywhere, as Metatron's cube. It is one of the most important informational systems in the universe, one of the basic creation patterns in existence. So what is Metatron's cube? Well, anyone who has studied sacred geometry, or even regular geometry for that matter, knows that there are 5 unique shapes in the universe, and that they are crucial to understanding both regular and sacred geometry. They are called the Platonic solids. A Platonic solid has certain characteristics by definition. First of all of its faces are the same size. For example, a cube, the most well-known Platonic solid, has a square on every face, so all of its faces are the same size. Secondly, the edges of the Platonic solids are all the same length. All edges of the cube are the same length. Third, it only has one size of interior angles between the faces. In the case of the cube, this angle is 90 degrees. And fourth, when put inside of a sphere, all of the points will touch the edge of the sphere perfectly. With that definition, there are only 4 shapes besides the cube that fit that description. So what are they? Well, we have the dodecahedron, the tetrahedron, the octahedron, the icosahedron, and the hexahedron. All of these shapes are found within Metatron's cube. This knowledge is also where original alchemy came from. The ancient alchemists and great souls like Pythagoras, father of Greece, considered each shape to have an elemental aspect to them. The tetrahedron was...
So now we see why we call it the flower of life. You can make the obvious implication that the flower of life leads to life. The cellular division process is identical with the flower of life process that they show you. Circle, 2 circles, etc., etc. So the flower of life not only leads to life and creation in you essentially arrived out of the flower of life, but from the flower of life we also derive sacred geometry and the 5 Platonic solids. Now what I'd like to do is just take a look at each one of those solids really quickly show you the shapes and also look at the total sum of all the angles, because that's going to be very important towards putting together all the pieces of the puzzle and the message to humanity from our ancient past. So right now let's take a look at those 5 platonic solids and the other geometric shapes that are going to be important to unlocking this mystery and understanding the ancient message, the message in a bottle that was meant for us to decipher right now. Let's take a look at those solids, those platonic solids, the geometry. First we have the circle or the sphere in its three-dimensional version. The circle or sphere has 360 degrees. Next we have the tetrahedron, which we see the tetrahedron's angles all add up to 720 degrees. Next we have the cube. Note that the angles of the cube add up to 2,160 degrees. Next we have the octahedron. The octahedron's angles all add up to 1,440 degrees. Next is the 12-sided icosahedron. The icosahedron's angles add up to 6,480 degrees. Next we have the 20-sided dodecahedron, which the angles total up to 3,600 degrees. Okay, now you see the 5 platonic solids plus the sphere and the resultant angles. Perceptive viewer will notice that these are all sacred numbers. We have 72, the angle of the tetrahedron, or 720 degrees. Doesn't matter the zero. You take away a zero, add several zeros, the number still has its sacred meaning. So 72 is 720 is 7,200, 72,000, etc. It still has the same sacred meaning. It's still a sacred number in that case. 72 with the tetrahedron. What else do we have? I think we have 1440, 144,000, or 144. These are all biblical numbers. Now, I refer to the Judeo-Christian heritage because I assume that most of my viewers are more familiar with the Bible and how these sacred numbers would be inculcated into the Bible. But it's not just the Bible. In the Rig Veda, the Indians, these numbers, these sacred numbers, I know 144,000 is very prominent in Indian sacred texts. The Quran from the Muslims, I know it utilizes these sacred numbers as well. Now, we've also mentioned that these sacred numbers are also utilized in sacred architecture, temples, buildings, etc., etc. That's not all. What I'd like to get into now is really the meat of where this begins to strike awe in the viewer, or it should if you're paying attention. We're going to discuss something called the Great Year. The Great Year is essentially a third motion that the Earth takes. It rotates around the sun, it spins, it gives the day and night, and it also has a wobble. The wobble is in a really long period. It takes 25,920 years to go in that long wobble. Now, it should take a long time for us as a civilization to be able to measure that wobble. You would assume that maybe with our high technology we would be able to accomplish it now. The fact is that we've had this knowledge of the Great Year as long as we can. Our history goes back 6,000 years. There was knowledge of the Great Year, and essential what's derived from it is zodiacal ages. You've probably heard, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We are entering an age of Aquarius right now. Age of Aquarius is the next house, zodiacal house we're moving into, and these zodiacal houses last for 2,160 years. That 2,160 years is based off of the 25,920 year, great year. The great year is 25,920 years. There are 12 different zodiacal houses within this great year. Each one is 2,160. 2,160 times 12 equals 25,920. Now, I've mentioned 2,160. You may recognize that number. That was the sum angles of the hexahedron or cube. 2,160 degrees. Wow. We just stumbled upon that? No. You're going to find these sacred numbers over and over and over again. I'm going to right now, I'm going to move to Randall Carlson. If you don't know him, he's rather well known. I might suggest you look up Joe Rogan, Randall Carlson. Joe Rogan